yoga Pilates fusion class, which means we'll take a little bit of Pilates work, we'll take a little bit of yoga work, we'll kind of blend it together. And generally speaking, over this sort of internet classroom style format, I slow things down a little bit because there's sometimes choppy video and sometimes things don't always move as smoothly, so I've just learned to kind of slow the pace of classes down. But if you want to add some extra elements to your class, like you want to hold your planks a little longer, or you want to add some, or throw one in where I don't put one in, you can add some of those elements to make your class more challenging. I'm going to try to just kind of keep a kind of steady pace, and if you want to throw that in, you can always catch up, okay? So I'm gonna I'm gonna do my thing. If it's right for you, yay, and if you need to add it, like up the ante a little bit, you're welcome to do so. All right, so we're gonna start laying down. Now I've got a few props here that I'm gonna use, and I'm just gonna throw this out to you, which is to say, and I've been trying to say this occasionally for videos, is there is not going to be sharing of yoga props for at least the next year or two in the world. So even when we're able to open the gyms back up, which I think is supposed to start happening maybe this week or next week, even when we're able to do that and we're able to have classes again, we're not going to be sharing yoga props. So I highly recommend that you get yourself a couple of yoga props. Now what I'm going to suggest is 3 things. 1 or 2 yoga blocks at the size that you like them. Some people like the 2-inch blocks, I like the 4-inch ones, but whatever size you like. I would get a blanket that's easy to carry, like those striped Mexican blankets or a wool blanket, something that you like, that's easy to put in a bag and take with you. If the props are burdensome, you're not going to want to bring them with you, but a relatively light blanket will work and do a lot of things, because you can fold it up, roll it up. There's a lot of different ways to use a blanket. And then I also recommend that you get yourself a yoga strap, whether it's a strap like this that's kind of all one level, or you get a strap that has loops on it, whatever you prefer, but get yourself a strap if you have the means to do so. If you don't have the means to do so, try to hook up with me on the social needs, and I'll make sure you get what you need. Or at least we'll chat about it. But you can do to get some relatively inexpensive yoga props. All right, so we're going to use the blocks today if you've got them. If you don't have blocks, then a throw pillow will probably work in place of the blocks. And what I would do with the throw pillow is I would lay down on it so that your back goes across one of the corner to corner sections, so a diagonal setup. If you've got yoga blocks, we're going to put one under our head, and my preference is to have the 6-inch edge under my head, and then because I like the 4-inch blocks, I'm going to put a 4-inch block down, and that's going to go under my shoulder blades, okay? So I'm going to have my shoulder blades resting on this block, and usually my preference is to have the width of the block, the widest section, go across my back rather than down my back. But some people like it this way, so you can experiment. And then we're going to lie down over these blocks. Now this is quite extreme compared to other setups, and sometimes I use things that are a little more gentle, but I'm going for this kind of extreme today so that I can do 2 things. I can kind of resettle my shoulders, but I can also get a stretch in my chest muscles. Now you can do different things with the legs. So you can leave your feet resting on the floor like this, which is a kind of constructive rest that helps the pelvis settle into place. My preference usually is to have the legs straight, and you could also put the feet together and have little butterfly wings. So you can choose. Now, I will tell you, this is not a lazy boy recliner. It is not, like, it's not built for comfort per se. It's a little bit spicy, but it does not suck. If this feels horrible, the block's not in the right spot. And for me, the right spot is very crucial. And so the way that I work it is right where your rib cage comes together at the tip of the breastbone. If you were to draw a line straight down, that would match up about with the bottom of the block, right? So the blocks are pretty high on the upper back, not under the neck, but pretty high in your upper back. So right, the bottom tip of my shoulder blade just lands on the block. block is positioned so that it is supporting my shoulder blades and the rest of my back is allowed to kind of find its own space. Now I'm starting with my elbows resting on the floor. If your elbows don't rest on the floor, you can use a blanket or a pillow instead of the block, or you can put something under your elbows, right? And as things start to open up, I'm gonna take my arms slightly wider as I go. Now what I like about this particular kind of thing, whether it's the blocks or a blanket is, or something else, is not that crucial. But what's happening is I'm stretching out some of my secondary breathing muscles. So the pectoralis minor, my intercostal muscles that live between my ribs. And if I add my inhales and really get my rib cage moving, then I get, again, kind of access and movement and a pulsation into those muscles. And when you're doing Pilates and you're trying to hold your navel steady, right, it's harder to get a deep breath. So by loosening some of these secondary breathing muscles, we can use those to get ourselves a good inhale. So as my arms are getting a little more comfortable, I'm just drifting them out a little bit more to give myself a little bit more stretch across the chest muscles. You can experiment on your own. If you're not feeling that release, don't go anywhere. Just stay right where you started. For probably like 4 more big breaths. So I'm going to take this block out from under my head first, and then I'm going to kind of try to roll to the side to get the other block out from underneath me. And then we're going to come back onto our back and just see what happened. And usually for me, this is the best spot. The best part of this whole thing is this kind of nice feeling that happens in my upper back. So, it just feels so good. Sort of feels like my upper back spreads out like warm butter on toast. Just super delicious and yummy. And because that one is a little bit more intense than, say, a blanket, I feel a lot more sensation in my upper back. And sometimes this little rocking motion is kind of nice just to massage the area where the block was sitting in terms of the tissue just under my skin. All right, so we're going to take these knees and bring them in so that they kind of float just about over the belly button. Take your arms out in a T, and you can put your palms down if that helps you hold your shoulders steady. I find for myself just pressing my upper arms into the floor nice and firm and drawing those shoulder blades down a bit is very helpful. And so that is the way that I steady my upper back. And so we're going to bring the knees over, and then you can curl them in against the armpit or straighten the legs out if you've got room. Come back to the center with the knees balanced about over the top of the pelvis or the belly button. Curl the knees in. Then take them back, go to the left, curl the knees in. And so this is going to be our little back and forth. Curl in the center, go to the side, curl in the center, go to the side, curl in. We're going to do that 4 more times. And try to notice the muscles that are starting to feel warmer. And as you go through these movements, just noticing too any resistance or tenderness that might be living in your back. Now I might have lost count, but I think I've got 2 more. So I'm going to do one more set of these. When I get to the center again, I'm going to pause right there, put my left leg down, and grab hold of my right leg. Now, holding onto the right leg, you can leave your left foot resting on the floor, or you can extend it all the way out. I'm going to spin my right foot in circles. And as I'm extending this left leg out, I'm just noticing if I feel anything on the top of my left hip go in the other direction. And then point and flex your foot. Now, if you're holding on to this right leg and you can feel a stretch right in the front of your left hip, then that is really all that you'll need to do. Just stretch that leg out. If you don't really feel anything in your left hip, then there's a couple more steps we can take. So you can reach in here and grab hold of your foot, bringing the foot up toward the ceiling. This creates a little bit more of a lean towards the right, which then picks the left hip up, and that gives you maybe a little bit more room as you lengthen through that leg to feel this little stretch on the front of this left hip. And if that still doesn't do the trick, pull your right thigh all the way down to the ground. Now there's a big lift here and a lot more room for this leg to drop over the edge and stretch out that hip flexor area in the front. Oh. We're going to take 2 more breaths. Return to the center. We're going to keep this knee in. We're going to curl the shoulder blades up off the floor. Now, there's a tendency with Pilates to use the, or just life, to use the neck to try to pick ourselves up off the floor. Just use my neck muscles and I'm going to get myself off the floor. The neck is not strong enough for that nonsense. So by doing that, we strain the neck, okay? So we're going to try to enliven this by using the core to get up, and then we're going to get all the air out and curl in just a little bit more as the leg comes towards us. Now here's the thing. If you're going to overdo the neck, then put your hands behind your head and press your head into your hands and your hands into your head. And that creates a little structure so that your neck muscles have something to do, and it will help, okay? So I'm going to do it that way just because I think it's a good way to do it, and because the reaching out with my arms is kind of superfluous. But if for you that's better, then that's cool. So we're going to elevate this left leg. I'm going to hold steady there and curl in. Switch legs, inhale, exhale, curl in. Reach that leg out away from you. Notice if there's a difference between the right one and the left one, because we haven't done the right one yet. Two more. Good, now pause. Put your head back down on the floor, put your right foot on the ground, grab hold of your left leg. Now again, you can leave the right leg just like that, or you can go ahead and stretch it out and see if that's all right. Then spin your left foot in circles. Go the other direction with the circles. And then point and flex. All right. Now, holding onto this leg and reaching through that right leg. Do you feel a stretch in the front of your right hip? Now for me, this side's spicier. It's a little tighter. So I feel more here than I did on the left side. But you could still take it up a notch. So you could still grab in here, hold onto the foot, or even pull that knee all the way to the ground. So as long as you're feeling this kind of stretching out, and it's a feeling like you've got room for this leg to move into the stretch is what we're after here. I like this stretch, it's weird, but I like it. Take 2 more breaths. Feel gravity help you kind of get this leg to come down and really try to open up that territory. We're going to release, and come back to the center. And then pause for a moment and just feel, like, did it land you a little softer in both hips? That's really nice. So there's lots of different ways that we can kind of release or expand or stretch out the hip flexors, and we'll do a bunch of them today. The hip flexors get tight when we sit too long, and also because these muscles that flex the hip are responsible for our ability to walk on 2 legs, which is basically how we get everywhere, at least last I checked. These are also considered fight or flight muscles. They're muscles that tense up when we are in situations that are stressful or when there's perceived danger in the world. It doesn't even have to be real danger, just perception of danger is enough. So these areas can get really tight and a little bit bound, and so we're going to try to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a hip flexor focus, but just noticing right now where they landed. And then we're going to play with the hip flexors in this leg lowering thing. And I know it's not everybody's favorite, but the hip flexors really come into play, and they're the stabilizer muscles of the deep transverse abdominis. Okay, so you can leave your head on the floor and bring your hands down beside your hips, and I even stick my thumbs underneath the edge because that gives me this kind of resistance that I can press into the floor, extend the legs. Now, you can also curl the upper body off the ground, push your hands behind your head, and press your head into your hands. And I like both of these, but, you know, like I have longer legs than I have a torso, so this one generally works better for my particular anatomy. So, hugging the legs together a bit, spreading out your toes. We're going to lower the legs, so that's going to create a bigger gap here. 4, 3, 2, 1. At the point where you feel your back starting to lift off the floor, that's the stopping point. So then you're going to stabilize through the abdominals, 2, 1, and then come back, okay? So we're going to hug the abs in and try to stabilize that low belly. So work those deep abs. I'm excited about this. I hope you are. Let's do it about 5 more times. Here we go. Lower and down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Stabilize. 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on back. Ooh, lower down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Coming back. Lower down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Coming back. 2 more. Lower down. 3, 2, 1. Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Coming back. Oh, it feels so good. We got 1 more to go. Here we are. Lower down. 3, 2, 1. Stabilize. 3, 2, 1. Come on back. Ooh. Oh. Okay, so put your feet back on the ground. Give yourself a little work. I love the way that targets this kind of lower abdominal area, which is deeper abs than just this kind of area that moves us into different shapes. So these deeper abdominals, the transverse abdominals that come around the lower half and that work the sides of the waist a little bit in conjunction with those obliques, those muscles help to stabilize us. That's what those abs are for. So we're going to do another stabilizing exercise while we're here. And this one again, you might want to keep your hands behind your head, or if you find that you're okay with not jerking on your neck too much, you can extend the arms as well. Okay, so we're going to curl up into a ball. And we're going to come back to this sort of knees over top of the hips, shoulders up. And again, you can put your hands back here and just leave them there and extend the legs out and bring them back. And we're trying to keep the torso very stable. Extend, bring them back. Extend, bring them back. That sort of deal, okay? You can add the arms to increase the intensity here. Try to get the shoulder blades up and hold them steady. Extend, bring it in. 3 more. Extend, bring it in. Extend, bring it in. And extend, bring it in. Good. All right, yogis. Give yourself a moment to rinse out. Take a deep breath. Or 4. While we're here, we're going to do one more movement. And that last movement is going to be the roll-up. Now, the roll-up, if you can do it smoothly and come all the way up to sitting and stretch over your legs, then do that and do a nice smooth pattern. The tricky part about the roll-up is that often we overuse this relationship we have with our hip flexors to try to force ourselves off the floor, and we lose the opportunity to do some really deep abdominal strengthening. So I'm going to break this into 2 halves so that I do some with really targeting the upper part of the abdominals, and then we'll do the other half, which gives us that stretchiness that you get from the top of the roll-up. Okay, so the theory is that we're going to roll all the way up 1 vertebrae at a time, and we're going to stretch over our legs and then roll down 1 vertebrae at a time. The problem is a lot of us get to about here, and we can't quite get all the way up. So we force ourselves up, which then is a kind of overuse of the hip flexors. So let's just start right where we are. We're just going to lift up as high as we can and come back down. And just get as high as you can get off the floor. So stretch out big. Come up as high as you can. Stretch out big. Anchor your legs to the ground. Come up as high as you can. And I almost always am a little stronger on one side, so I'll try to emphasize the other side a couple times just to make those muscles work a little bit more. Let's do that twice more. See if I can get a little more even. Last one. Okay, so now we're going to stretch out and we'll come all the way up. And those of you that are still rolling up, do your thing. And then we're going to stretch over the legs and do this portion. So now we're going to target this lower part. So we're going to stretch over the legs, and this gives us that nice stretch. And then we'll come up, get nice and tall, and then we're going to dissolve back as low as we can go before we lose control, and then come right back up, get tall, fold forward as best you can. Come back up, get tall, draw the navel back, roll down as far as you can go. Come back up, get tall, fold. Okay, so this is not exactly the roll up, but it's all the just right parts of it, so that eventually, as we build the strength, we can start rolling more smoothly like our friends. Coming back, sit up tall, fold over. We're gonna do it twice more. So those of you that are doing the roll up, probably 1 more roll up, and then we're gonna meet up in this seated position. Sit up tall, fold forward, sit up tall, roll back. Last time here, see how far we can go, and then bring it back up, get tall, fold over. It's a nice way to do it. All right, while we're sitting here, we're gonna do a little side stretch. So I'm gonna show you 2 options for the side stretch. The first option looks like what I'm doing right here with my leg. So I've got one leg bent so that this foot is in here, and it can be really close or a little further away, whatever gives you the better sort of sense of a base. Or you can take this leg and bring it around behind you, and just bring the heel as close to your hip as you can, and then this gives us just a little bit more kind of sensation in this top of this thigh. So we're gonna bend over sideways, and again, this is sort of between you and your hip and your knee. So if there's complaints here, do that other shape. So we're gonna stretch out over the torso or over the leg here, giving ourselves a little bit maybe of inside movement, a little outside movement. I'm pressing this leg back a little bit more to get the front of that hip. Okay, I'm gonna take a big breath and then come all the way up. I'm gonna undo that leg, bring it around the front, pause for a moment. This is where you'll kind of know, was that a good idea? Before we do the other side. Felt pretty good. So again, this leg can come into the center this way, or you can bring it around this way. And again, for me, it's about like how far back will this thigh let me go? And then you can bring your heel in against your hip as close as it'll get. And then we'll take it over the side. And now that I'm here, I want to inch my thigh back a little bit more. And again, you can kind of play with the stretch a little bit this way or a little bit that way. Take one more big breath, and we'll come all the way up. We're gonna unwind the leg and come on back to the center and see where that landed us. So we're gonna come up to all fours. You feel like you're ready. We'll do some work with the back. Two little cat shapes. Okay, so I'm going to do one more of those. And then we're going to take this right leg out behind and the left arm out in front. So we're gonna give that a big long stretch. Then if you can, bring the knee and the elbow underneath you and round up. And if you can bring your knee up towards your nose, do that. Extend. Extend. We're gonna do it one more time. If it's too wobbly, just put your hand out and just do it with your leg. Extend. Okay, good. So now we're gonna let this leg hook over the back. And if you can reach back and grab it, cool. If that's too much, put your hand back down and just lift that thigh as high as it'll go. Bring the heel in and lift the thigh. And one more breath there. Now let go with your hand, use it for stability. Bring that leg all the way forward, and we'll take this into lunge. So this is the same shape we did while we were laying on our back, but can you feel a difference in the way lunging like this stretches this kind of hip flexor area in the front of the hip? So I'm going to back off just a little bit, feel how that affects my nervous system, and then go back in. And I'm trying to find a spot that feels kind of interesting without pushing my nervous system, just think it's a fight. So see if you can feel that subtlety. Last breath here. And then we're going to back this up, fold over this leg in the front. Now if I take both my hands to this side, I kind of shift the pressure a little more to the inside hamstrings versus the outside ones. The further I go this way, the more I do that. So I kind of like having a balance. All right, we got one more breath here. And then I've got both hands on the inside if you don't bring them around the inside, so you can take that right leg back, give it a little shake out. Bring it back down, and then pause for just a moment and feel those two hemispheres. I like that moment. Left leg goes back, right arm goes out. We're going to take a nice big long stretch, curl in, extend out, curl in, extend out, curl in, out. We're gonna try one more, curl in. Extend out, give it a big reach. Beautiful. Then you could put the hand on the floor, you could grab your foot. We're gonna lift that leg, bring the foot in, create this kind of little scorpion shape here. One more breath. And then bring that leg all the way forward, and we'll ease our way into this lunge. And again, I'm gonna try to find where the interesting sensation is and then pause for a moment. Back off a little bit. See how that impacts my nervous system. And then surf back in and see if I can keep a kind of calm sense to my inner body. I can't fool my nervous system. It's got its own agenda here, which is keep her safe, keep her safe, keep her safe. Take in one more breath. All right, so then I'm gonna back my hips up, and take this hamstring stretch. And so again, for me, when I go more over the leg directly, it's largely a story about my outer hamstring. It has two actual, the muscles, one muscle down here and two muscles up near the hip. And so it feels like two. And then there's two muscles on the inside edge over on this side, and I like to get those as well. All right, so if your arms are not on the inside, bring them to the inside. We're gonna take that left leg back, give it a little shake, and then bring it down. All right, let's do a little stretch or a little twist for our upper back. So I'm taking my knees slightly wider than I might in an all fours position. I'm gonna take one arm and thread it underneath. And then I'm gonna decide, like, should my hips come forward more or go backward more? And then using this spare arm, I'm gonna sort of hold onto the edge of my mat and push myself into the shoulder stretch and twist a little bit more. So that gives me like a little bit more purchase on the floor. I can get this muscle that lives underneath my shoulder blade on the arm on the bottom. Taking two more breaths here. Now, I'm going to use my spare arm to make room to get that arm out from underneath. I'm going to give it a little shake. Pause for a moment and just notice how back feels. Before I do this other side, I'm going to just give my back a chance to sort of change the shape back to a pretty neutral. All right, so I'm going to do the opposite arm under. And again, once I get here, I'm going to play with it. Do I want to go forward a little bit more? And then grab hold of the end of my mat here and give myself that little bit of extra leverage to get into the stretch. And moving the hips back and forth kind of helps me find the just right spot there. So there's not a lot of load landing in my sacrum. Last big breath here. And then use your spare arm and make room and get that arm out from underneath there. All right, so we're gonna come all the way onto the belly. And for just a moment, we'll let the upper back kind of readjust. As you reach your legs out, find a spot where you can kind of stretch out a little bit. And then we're gonna kind of roll shoulder blades up and around, up and around, up and around. Now, as the shoulder blades come down your back, press down through your legs, lengthen, lift yourself into a cobra. And then we're gonna come on back down. Slide the hands back a little bit, same idea. Shoulders back, roll and lift. Try to do the lift with your back muscles and not by pushing with your arms. Slide your hands back a little. Shoulders back, lift. Coming back down, last one, a little bit further back if you've got it available. Roll the shoulders, lift. Oh, hold that one. Lift. You might deflate a little bit, and we're going to take one more big inhale. And then we'll come on back down. Windshield wiper your legs. This is where you can throw in some plank action if you want to. So we're going to come back to either a modified plank or a full plank. We're going to tuck the toes and head into a downward facing dog. I don't know if you're going to groan on your mat, but I'm going to groan on mine. Oh. Going to feel out your upper body connection. Feel the leg connection here to this pose. And then we're going to walk the hands and feet toward each other until you're standing on your feet. And then once you're there, give your arms a little shake out. Oh, I'm going to do one and then the other. And then we're going to come up halfway and feel that kind of flattening out or that almost cobra shape in the upper back, and then let yourself bend your knees as much as you need to and see if the legs will go straighter. And then we'll come up halfway. Bend the knees, fold over the legs, see if they'll go straighter. And then we're going to come back up to that halfway mark and then all the way up to standing. When you get there, give yourself a big stretch. Oh. All right. So we're going to find a mountain pose. Now you might be at the top of your mat, or like me, you might be at the back of your mat. And so wherever you find yourself, spread your toes out, take a moment. We're going to take a nice deep breath, reach the arms up. Now, if you've got room to stretch out, fine. If you're going to hit your plants, don't stretch out. Exhale, fold forward. Now I'm going to go forward. You might step back. So lift up halfway, and then when you fold, you're going to take yourself into downward dog. We'll come forward into a plank. You can modify that plank. Draw the navel in. Try to find that space where you're sort of a slope. And then lower down with control halfway or all the way, coming into a cobra or an upward dog. Come on back. We're going to push back up. Take ourselves back to downward dog, or all fours will work. Take your right leg up. Nice big stretch. We're going to try to bring that to this upper right arm. Give it a little tap. Take it back. Bring it straight down the middle. Curl up around it. Take it back. Hold steady right there. Sink into that left heel. And then we're going to step this right leg forward. Now, once you've got your right leg in place, we're going to spin the heel to the ground. Now, I want my toes turned in as far as I can keep them in and still get the heel on the ground. So that's my warrior one stance, right? So that the hips don't feel like they have to turn as much to the side. So I just want that as tight as I can keep this package, but I still get this heel to the ground. So it's not quite a lunge. And then hold steady here. We're going to bring the arms up and lift. And then you could take the arms behind you to fold forward and do the spine stretch and roll up here. Or if you want to add the extra leverage, keep the arms reaching up, stretch the spine forward, and then roll it up. Just try to come up as slow as you can. Try to feel those little vertebrae. I like to do this with my eyes closed because it's easier for me to feel it, but then it makes me wobbly. So one more time. stretch. Try to get taller if you can. And then roll yourself up. All right, so now this warrior one, we're gonna straighten out this front leg. You might be able to spin the heel back a little bit more. Aim the hips more forward. And then we're gonna stretch out over this leg. And again, if I put one hand on either side, this is largely a story about this outer hamstring, so you could bend the knee or straighten it out depending on how intense that is. Now I'm gonna walk my hands to the inside here and just a little more on the diagonal so that again I get these more inside hamstrings. Which if you've been neglecting them for years will feel a little more interesting for sure. Take one more breath. Now this is where you could throw in a little extra. So I'm gonna step up to the top of the mat. But you may want to step back into your plank and then add your vinyasa there. And if you stepped up to the top of the mat with me, then we're going to pause here. And then those of you that went through the vinyasa, once you get back to down dog, you can either walk or hop yourself up or back, whichever one works out better. And then we all come back here to this moment with each other. Nice big breath, arms go up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, up halfway. Exhale, fold, and we're coming into down dog. Coming forward into that plank. Modified or full, lower down. Coming into cobra. Taking it back to your down dog. We're going to take this left leg up. And then exhale towards this upper left arm as close as you can get. Reach it back, curl it right down the middle. Reach it back, sink into that right heel. And then step that left leg forward. And again, I'm going to bring this right foot to the ground so that it's as close as I can keep it to the lunge shape. And then come up. And then if I'm not exactly positioned right, I can always make adjustments. But I want to try to feel like I'm not dragging my hips sideways, okay? So again, with the arms or without, we're going to stretch forward. And roll up. I'm holding onto my legs a little bit so I can concentrate on that roll. It feels really good. Stretch your spine out. And then roll up. Stretch. Reach it forward, yogis. Roll it up one more time. Then I'm going to straighten out this leg. I might bring this back thigh around so I can bring my pelvis a little bit more around, and then nice and easy now. We're going to fold into this hamstring stretch. Then I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to get into these other two hamstrings a little bit more. Two more breaths. Now, we're all going to step back to down dog, but you could throw in your extra plank and whatnot. And then we're all going to find our way onto the belly. Oh, that felt good. So, maybe you finished your vinyasa. We're going to extend the right arm up and roll onto the right side. And I might need a little extra room here. Hold on. I'm gonna scooch closer to the edge. Okay, now, with my legs extended, I want to feel like my hips and my shoulders balance out. And then I'm gonna bring my feet behind me. Okay, and I still should have that balance in the hip and the shoulder. And then I'm gonna lift the feet. And again, I don't want to let my hip roll forward. So I'm gonna make sure I've still got that balance. Hip and shoulder about the same. Holding that balance, we're gonna do these little clam kicks. I like these a lot because if you can only do one piece of side work, if you've only got time for one, this one really gets all the bits. The inner thigh movement, outer thigh movement, stabilizing. It's a good one. 3 more. Okay, now bring the legs back to center. Oh, we're gonna take the leg up front, lift that bottom leg. We're gonna give it a little pulsation. 10, 9, 8. See if you can feel yourself lift from deep inside the belly. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring that leg down. We're going to roll onto the back. Oh. Now this right leg is going to come up on top of this left one. We're going to take a little moment here and see. Snuggle the shoulder blades underneath you. Can we get the hips to go up and come back down? Go up and come back down. Go up and come back down. One more time. Up. Hold it steady if you can. See if you can get the hips a little higher. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll down. Free that leg. Give yourself a little jiggle. Now you could just extend your left arm, roll onto your left side. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm hopeful that we've got this. And we're going to make it work. I'm going to scooch this way. All right. So shoulders and hips are nice and stable. Feet are in, still stable. Feet are lifted, still stable. Okay, don't let your hip fall forward. Keep that guy right up there. And then we're going to open, extend, bring it back, close it up. Good. Oh, try to keep it nice and stable. Hug in through your abs a little bit. We're going to try to do 5 more. So 2 more by my count, which might not be totally accurate. All right, so we're going to bring the legs back down. Take this leg up top. Put it on the ground in some fashion. Could be level, could be like this. Lift this leg that's on the bottom. So right leg this time. We're going to pulse it up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it steady. 10. Dig a little deeper. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Don't let it fall yet. 2, 1. Bring it down. We're going to come onto our back. Bring in that left leg up on top. We're going to pause for a moment. Here we go. Lifting the hip up and bring it back. Lift it up and bring it back. Lift it up. Bring it back. Lift it up. Bring it back. This is our last one. We're going to hold this one. Lift it up. Right there. Try to sustain. Can you lift that hip up? Hold it steady. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back down. Release your legs. And friends, it's about time for Shavasana. Now, if you got to go off to work, I understand. But if you can take a few moments to just stretch yourself back out. Oh. Nice deep breath and let go with an ah. And then just pause for a moment. This is where you may have to help yourself to your own aromatherapy. But if you've got it, you can take a few deep breaths of some lavender or something that is calming. Just let your nervous system regroup for a moment. Feel the joy of just being right here in this moment, alive. Can you feel your heart beating? And the beautiful sort of oceanic rhythm of the breath dropping in and then gently floating out. Yogis, take a really big breath. Let go with a big give your fingers and toes a little wiggle. Stretch out. Give your wrist and ankles a little movement. Reach out. And then you're going to bring your knees in and give yourself a little hug and a little back massage. And we're going to come up to a seated position. And for those of us that are still here together, we'll say goodbye to each other with a big breath. Nice big inhale. Big deep sigh. Namaste, yogis.